Welcome to the Matriarch Method, where power meets purpose, wisdom leads by example, and women run the show. Ladies, how we doing?
I'm doing just fine. I think this is our first recording, which will be way later that we will release this, that we have released our first couple of episodes, which is really cool.
It was
I
funny because
agree.
I was, listening to part of the one we just released, and we're like, "It's St. Patty's Day," and I was like, "That's so fucking long ago."
Dude, honestly, it's amazing how much has changed since then.
No, that's what I was thinking about. I was like, my life is like nothing is the same since we recorded that podcast.
So I don't know, maybe in the future we'll rethink like timelines and shit, like how things go, because it's weird because when you're putting out content, like it does need to be kind of like relevant to what I'm not saying that what we were talking about was not relevant, but the time like was so different. Like I wasn't even in Dallas. I was still moving and all over the place. So crazy.
Absolutely. And I've still always been in prep, but how I did it was drastically different. And although a lot of my opinions that I likely shared here were beneficial and real and the truth, I think what I was doing and thinking to myself and about myself, that is totally, totally different now, and actually really does kind of tie into our topic of moving from external to internal validation. But I can sit here confidently and tell you that the Ash Markham that was blessing like with Ash Nuggies like months ago, while she wants to still have like good truth and like, impactful, quotes to live by, like I can tell you that I'm no longer feeling like an imposter. I'm actually living by what I say and not just like wanting to sound smart because now I'm being better to myself. Not that I want to open and honestly own.
I think it's important too. Like, I like that you said that because I've been in the last couple of months, as I don't want to say things have been slower. I just haven't been putting people on stage and like how I want to show up on social media and stuff like that. And even like with my birthday passing and all that. And I'm just like, what is me now, like
Mhm.
today? And when you're not chasing external validation, like likes or even sign-ons or other coaches that are probably watching you, like the way you show up as yourself is much different. And I think because I've personally just had this shift in like going off on my own and kind of reintegrating myself into how I show up and how I speak, it's been this little bit of a back and forth thing in my brain because I'm like, do I want to sound smart today or do I want to actually be myself? And is myself
Mm.
actually smart? Is myself actually professional? I'm different than most coaches. Like I just am. Like I speak differently. I'm black. Like shit like I'm a female, right? Like so it's just like I've been in this weird space of like really wanting to show up as me and knowing that I'm not always going to be favored for it. Does that make sense? And so when you shift that from, that external validation piece to just being who you are, it changes it changes how people interact with you and you kind of got to be cool with it. So, I've been in a weird funk, not really a funk, but like or just a strange space of even though I've grown a lot, I'm still growing and trying to figure out what's best for me.
Absolutely. And I know as women, like we sometimes fall into that trap of like always wanting to be likable or like have that expectation where it ends up being like a trap where it's like you need to please everyone and everyone needs to like you. And I don't know when that starts for a lot of people. Maybe it's childhood, maybe it's social media pressure, maybe it's how we grew up. Like, I don't know. But I can say that since my most recent venture of competing 6 weeks ago and competing 4 days ago, it looked the same. I was still doing my cardio, eating my meals, training, like all of that was the same. But the intention behind it and how I did it internally was drastically different. And it's something where I wanted to be likable and I wanted to show that I was doing bodybuilding properly because I was, but internally I wasn't. And I was being awful to myself. And I wasn't liking who I was, and it showed on stage. And then this most recent experience, like, my whole intention was to be Ash Markham, however that looked, which meant I left in my belly button ring, and Brittney actually helped me pick it out. So I had Brittney on stage with me. I wore my bull ring because Ash Markham has a fucking bull ring, and I love my bull ring. It's something where it's like I had all of my piercings. I wore the jewelry that my friend sent me. That's her jewelry. So it's like I had my friends with me on stage because I'm someone that loves myself and loves my friends. And the people backstage, I had a girl being like, I loved your energy. I felt so safe with you. I didn't want to leave your side. She saw me, and like that was powerful. Right. And that's something where it's like, you have to like you because not everyone's going to like you. But the people who like you, those are your people. And it is really important that you kind of surround yourself with people that like you for you being authentically, unapologetically you, and not just surround yourself with schools of fish because you don't know yourself and you're lonely.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Yeah, I think I was also, I mean, you guys know this, in like a funk over the last few months, and like for multiple reasons. Like one was just I started that new job, so it was just like overwhelming, like new schedule and taking on that whole new role. And in that new role, there's like just a lot of responsibility, and I train new employees, and it's just like it takes a lot of my energy. So at the end of the day, sometimes I'm just like, what am I gonna post? I don't know what to post. I don't feel like posting. So I went through like that phase. It took a while to get used to that. And then I got in a new relationship, so navigating that. We also like I just moved. I don't even know if you guys know that, but I just moved. And I've been moving for like 2 months. So it's like when I'm not working and doing all these things, I've been moving. So it's been just a lot. But I think part of that piece, what you were saying of kind of knowing who you were, I do feel like I almost am like a different person than I was then. And the things that matter to me are different too, and I think that's gonna also show up in what types of athletes I attract and things like that. Um, I don't know the next time I'm gonna step on stage, so, like, that's something different, so I think there's just been, like, a lot of moving parts, and now I'm finally getting to the point where I feel, like, ready to show up again, but it was really hard because I, like, felt guilty and, like, felt like an imposter because I was like, I'm not showing up on social media, and I knew I wasn't, but I just, like, couldn't bring myself to post because I don't think I knew what I wanted to post or what I wanted to attract at that point.
It just goes to show like that people that have been doing this for a long time, or what you would think is a long time. I'm sure there's a lot of newer female coaches that are listening to this, that we still go through those things. I think that the difference between now and years ago is that I think that you kind of know that it will pass, and you know what to do when you start getting into that like mental funk or space. Because I think for me, like what I'll do is I'll lean on support. Like I just talked to Ash today because I needed support over something that, and it was something that would have taken me out of my momentum had I allowed myself to sit in um the discomfort that I was feeling. So it's like, just understand that even as you grow through this, you will still encounter the same things. You will just be better at handling them. And that all is derived from being okay with who you are and your emotions going through like mothering a business and taking care of things the way women do. So you're going to go through things, you're just going to get better at it. Like now I'm like, okay, I'm going to schedule the next few days of my posts because I'm not entirely okay and I can feel it, right? And it's cool. I just need to take that off of off my plate. So I'm not thinking about it when I wake up, you know?
Exactly, exactly. Something that like I've been leaning on a lot is like you're able to live within the challenge because that's one of those things where when we feel discomfort due to growth and change and disruption, like our foundation can feel unstable and that is scary. But then you also can remind yourself of like, well, how do we get more confident? We live within the challenge and we look back and we see that we had the strength to endure the challenge and grow from it. But if your confidence only exists when someone else praises you, it's not confidence, it's permission, right? And that is not a strong foundation to stand on whatsoever, because it will not only remove you from you, but then you will forget your values and how you define success in your voice, right? So all the other episodes leading up to this one, those were again your foundations and your anchors. And it's not to say that we don't still struggle, because of course we do, but early on, I was so reliant on other people's opinions and their validation, their thoughts, their praise, their feedback, their rejection, that like as a coach, I didn't know who I was or what I offered. And that is not good when you are your brand. And if you don't know what you stand for, like who are you going to want to work with? Like, what are your processes? What are your methods? And it's really important to have flexibility as you grow, as the three of us are speaking about our growth, but then also again having those anchors for those points of life that do challenge and shake you, so that way you can continue to show up as yourself. But I know as females, there's that the cost of external validation. Like, how many of us are like, oh, I'm a people pleaser? Like, Ashley Fish, my maiden name, she was a people pleaser. And let me tell you, Ashley Fish was miserable. She didn't know who she was. She felt lost. She felt like she needed to be friends with everyone, and she poured desperately, anxiously, and clingily to other people because she didn't know who she was. There is a reason, and it is a very intentional reason, why I introduce myself as, hi, hello, I'm Ash Markham, because I know who the fuck Ash Markham is, and I know what she stands for. So your perception of yourself needs to be solidified and improved upon and evaluated constantly, so you can make sure you are staying in alignment with yourself. Because if you're not only is that going to be observable to the outside, but internally, that is such a big cost to your piece.
Yeah, that actually kinda reminds me of when I was, like, trying to make new friends in the gym and stuff, because I notoriously am just, like, resting bitch face, like, in the zone, which, like, there's nothing wrong with that, you wanna get in and out, but at the same time, I was, like, desiring to create connections, and I wasn't exuding confidence, like, I was just, like, putting my head down, not making eye contact, and it, like, just the little difference in, like, keeping your chin up, smiling and saying hi to someone, like, you don't have to, like, make this giant conversation with people, but, like, I would just, like, say hi to everyone I, like, walked by, especially regulars I
Mhm.
would see all the time, and then I would just, like, make little compliments like, "Oh my god, I love your leggings," or like, "Your hair's so pretty," like, and, like, genuine compliments. I wouldn't, like, say something I didn't believe was true, but just, like, making those little changes, I started meeting people, and I was like, "Damn, like, it was that easy," you know, but I hadn't realized before that I was putting myself in the position to, like, not meet people, and I always thought it was just like, "Oh, it's so hard," you know, but I'm like, "Oh, it really wasn't." I was just doing it to myself, but it was that lack of confidence, I think, of, you know, maybe telling myself I was a quiet person or whatever, and it's like,
Mhm.
you just need to make those little adjustments.
I agree. I agree. And like you built that through consistent action versus I know there's this common thing about like, oh, the cure to anxiety is action. And it's like, there is no cure for anxiety. We will always have anxiety. It is something that is with us, especially as females, because we want to make sure that we are successful because you don't stress about things that you don't care about. Or if you are that person that still has some more growth to do, then you need to even sharpen your focus more and then learn to only stress about the things you care about. But once you have that revelation and you do experience stress over your business or your client results or your client retention or whatever it is that you have anxiety over, understanding that consistency in time really does, help to kind of work through that. But at the end of the day, it's like making sure again that you continue to show up and you continue to build and you define your success. You have those metrics that keep you with maybe it's integrity or like I said client outcomes or something like that that shows you that you are being true to yourself. And when it comes to feedback, be curious about the feedback and ask yourself, is there truth to this? Should I be considering this or could I consider this? But don't take everyone's feedback as something that you have to do, right? Because it might not be what's best for you or your clients or your outcome. Like, how many times do we tell our clients when a new flashy, like thing comes around, like peptides or, metabolic health, where they're like, "Ooh, am I missing out on that?" And it's like, focus what you need to do. Because if you're always listening to the peanut gallery, you're gonna be stuck.
Yeah, I would. So this is the thing, is that now that I've had several years in this and I've seen trends come in and out, and even myself, like kind of thinking, okay, well, there's a trend going on, so I need to learn about this. Like starting to have like this anxiety about what is and what's not working, what will make me lose my clientele if I'm not abreast to this type of information. What if they ask me something I don't know the answer to, like shit like that? What I now remember, because I've had a few years in this, is that things come in and out all the time. Like next couple of years, peptides won't be talked about, even
Mhm.
though peptides have been around for a long time. And now that I've watched this happen multiple times with many different things, GI maps, um, now it's all mitochondrial health, like shit like that, right? We've seen these things come in and out, and people forget, and they go back to the basics. They go back to the things that were going to help them in the first place. And so, and that's part of my value system. So
Mhm.
like the basics are part of my value system as a coach, as a leader. And so whenever I see myself have a spike in anxiety or feel like I need to have more knowledge about something and learn more about something that doesn't necessarily need to be on my plate until it needs to be on my plate, until I need to utilize it in some way, shape, or form, um, I just remember that at the end of the day, these things are trends that other
Mhm.
people are learning about right now, and that's okay. If I feel inclined to go out of my way to be educated on this, great, because I feel passionate about it, because I feel aligned with it. If I don't have an interest in it, I don't have to force myself to be interested in it. And I think a lot of coaches have a hard time with that. They kind of force themselves to be interested in trends that are not going to last anyway.
Mhm.
And it doesn't make you more or less advanced to engage in it. It just makes you somebody who's curious and wants to learn. That's all it is. It's very simple.
Mhm.
So,
Exactly. And like I bought a peptide book that was discussed about in my mentorship because I am curious and I want to learn more. But it's not gonna change who I am or what I do, but it will change if I think this might be a better direction or route for a client when we have already mastered the basics and fundamentals, and this might help them in a way that, like, an over-the-counter Amazon supplement won't, like, specifically, like, a Hashimoto's case. We have done all of the right things on pen and paper, and not without protocols, but with intentional and progressive steps, and things are working, but things can also work a little bit better with the help of external help. But again, that doesn't mean that I'm throwing the kitchen sink at her and we're neglecting the basics and fundamentals. But if I see her slipping, I'm like, hey, you cannot not be sleeping right now. Like, yes, this peptide's expensive. I appreciate you investing in it for your health, but sleep is fucking free. Like, don't sleep on sleep. You know what I'm saying? So it is one of those things where be curious as to why you're doing this. Is this an educated, informed decision that will help me to grow? Or am I chasing trends to still feel relevant? Because if it's chasing trends to feel relevant, that's that external validation. If
yes.
it's not true to yourself and your brand, then
Mhm.
that's how you know that it's not an impulse buy, it's an informed decision.
Like, you have to remember that when you are feeling interested and curious about something, that's part of your alignment,
Mhm,
and you are going to be good at teaching it
mhm,
and providing value to it if you actually like it.
mhm,
Right.
So there's a lot of trends. Sometimes I just don't care for them. I don't care. Like, and that's okay. You don't have to care about every single trend. If at
mhm,
some point I think it's relevant for my programming, then I will. But right now, what I'm really into and what really gets me fired up is building glutes. So like, and I never wanted to be that type of coach. I really wanted to be a coach that like had a lot of males, like all kinds of different clients. And what's actually happening is I'm niching a lot. And I didn't expect that to happen. I didn't expect it to happen to me, but that's what's getting me excited to wake up every day. And it's what I'm excited to work on within myself because of the transition and divisions that I'm dealing with, or in the division that I'm dealing with right now, right? And so even though that is something that I have pushed away for a long time, is basically a more feminine style of coaching. It's happening and I like it and I'm good at it. And now I'm finding people coming to me for that. So in that, I'm getting business by niching down and saying, I don't want to deal with all that other stuff that other people are doing because I just don't care. Like, I just simply don't. And so it's like, it can be hard to sit and say that because you might feel like you're pushing away business. But if anything, you get more business because you're specializing in something.
You
So
know why you're successful? And a big reason is what you just said, and what that can kind of be summarized into is you're speaking from conviction, you're not algorithm chasing. Because if you were algorithm chasing, all your page would be is peptides. When in reality, like, you like building a fat booty. And I love that about you. And since I am now transitioning into my off season, guess what the fuck I'm using to program my glutes? Your guide. Because
Project
I
P.
see you. Yeah, peachy booty baddie, let's go. But seriously, like, I respect and I see your authenticity with building glutes. So therefore, your opinion means a hell of a lot more to me than someone else's, thinking or method or whatever. And it's something where it's like, yes, I'm supporting my friend, but I'm supporting her because I know she's good and passionate. And that alignment matters. So that's a good, like, kind of like practical application when it comes to like coaching clients or marketing. It's like speaking with conviction and making sure that you trust yourself and your knowledge where you can justify your recommendation and, your communication with your clients, but you're not overly doing it to the point where it reeks of not having confidence. Because like if you like Austin gives me a change, hey, we're doing this is why we're doing it. Yes, fucking sir. And that's usually all I have to say in my check-in. I don't say, can we do like no, because he knows what he's doing and I trust him. I do the same with my clients. Now, if they have a follow-up question, I am happy to answer it in the same way he is, but I'm saying, hey, this is what I see in your lab work based on your symptoms. Great coach, thanks, no questions, right? So it's like speaking with conviction and confidence is important.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to what you were saying, B, about like switching gears into something that maybe you didn't even think you were going to be interested or want ever. I think as coaches, especially when you're in it for a long time, like 10 plus years, like you as a person, you're going to change, your interests are going to change. And I think it's easy to box yourself into like, this is what I'm known for, or this is what I'm good at. But you might get interested in something new, or you might change what type of clients you wanna work with and things like that, and I think sometimes that can be scary and you almost kind of, like, crawl back and you're like, "Oh, I should just stick to what I know," but that isn't being in alignment with yourself, and then I think you are looking for that external validation of like, "Well, I know people think I'm good at this," and maybe you're scared to go into something new because it is like, "Well, what if people don't wanna come to me for that?" Um, and I think that is something too that over the years, as my own personal interests have changed, I find I want to work with different types of people, and that's okay. And I think it's good to explore those things that excite you. Like you said, now that's what makes you get up every day and you're happy about it. So go after those things, chase those feelings instead of chasing what you think other people want from you.
Chase
Mhm.
real dopamine.
Yeah.
Amen. Like, you gotta live with you. Like, you wake up with you go to bed with you. You know what I'm saying? Like, as much as, yes, it's important to have client retention and a good reputation in the industry, because that means you're doing the right thing by the right people. Like, when B was first saying, like, not everyone's gonna like you. Like, you can't control that, right? But it is really important that you focus on what you can control when it comes to your brand and your marketing and your clients and all of the things that actually do matter to create the success of your business. And I think it's important to do a little bit of self-reflection when it comes to receiving feedback, because as females especially, it's something where when we receive feedback, sometimes we take it too personally. When feedback is usually just someone's opinion, and different people's opinions have different weight. I'm gonna care a lot more what B and Liz has to say because I know they genuinely care for me, want to see me succeed, versus some anonymous keyboard warrior that slides into my Not Gonna Lie app and tells me that like I look anorexic and have no muscle, right? But 3 years ago, that comment made me cry. It ruined my self confidence because I cared about what that person had to say. When in reality, like, yeah, I remember it because I remember how much it hurt, but now I remember it because I think it's funny. Because it's like I literally cried over that when it's like, who knows who that was? You know what I'm saying? But I know that the people, myself included, care about me and have the things that are the truth to say. But going back to that self check, it's like, would I stand by this if no one noticed? Would you? Would your friends stand by you if they knew this about you? Right? Because those are the people that while you don't need to be seeking their external validation, it's still important to make sure that that respect and that accountability is being held when you are struggling too.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, like, as women, I think we were talking about anxiety earlier and how it's, like, more prevalent with women in general, just kind of the identity that's there. Women tend to have more anxiety because they carry a lot more roles with less power, and higher expectations of that, and fewer resources to be able to navigate these things. So you, as a woman, you're conditioned to notice and constantly caretake. And this is like the perfect recipe for anxiety and stress, and constantly questioning what you're doing, which is why, like, I'm happy to see a lot more female leaders come about, but without the right support from one another, it's easy to just take a step back and not deal with things when shit gets really hard. And for those that are successful in business, they continue to push on when there's even when there's anxiety, even when there's discomfort, even when they feel like they can't do it. Um, and there's no one like that does anything great that doesn't deal with that level of anxiety, like, and level of questioning whether or not they can do this. I don't know a person that sat and was like the entire time they were building a business that were like, or building a physique, or going to the Olympia, or any shit like that, that sat there and was like, I can do this the entire time. No, like they have things that come into their brain that fuck with them. But the difference between them and people that don't make it are that they don't keep going. They stop.
Yeah.
They don't have the right support. So that all in turn like really sets the standard for yourself, because you have to be able to turn around and look at yourself during that and not care about what other people are doing in order for that to happen.
Absolutely. And something that like I'm proud of when it's a real world example as a coach is I remember the day, the moment when again Austin Stout is my mentor and he will be my mentor for as long as I can financially afford him because he's a very smart man. But one of the days that I had specifically is I remember the shift of instead of like sending him a client question with labs, being like, what would you do in this case? To this is what I see in these labs. This is what I'm going to do. Do you see a different perspective? I am no longer asking him, like, what should I do? What are your thoughts? Like, I'm asking him, his perspective to make sure that I'm not missing out on an opportunity to grow. But it is no longer me about receiving his approval or giving me a good job out of girl. It's about making sure that I do right by my clients to have another like eyes, in the sky. So that way, one, I also learn, and two, I can make sure that my pillar, which is again making sure that I do right by people, is checked off. But it feels so fucking good to look over a set of labs, to connect symptoms, and to be like, this is what I see, this is what I'm going to do. Am I, making sure that I covered all of the things? And it very rarely does he come back being like, you missed the mark. I could not tell you the last time he was like, no, years. The only time he will add things is, again, adding to my collaboration, adding to my thoughts, not making sure that I do it his way. I do it the Ash Markham way. And goddamn, that feels good.
Uh,
Yeah, I think with mentorship, there is gonna be a point A to point B kind of where you need to for a while, you're gonna have to ask, like, "What would you do here?" Because you
Yeah.
just don't know, but the goal should be to get to that point, and I know the same with myself. I actually mentored with Austin before, and I actually haven't needed him in a long time. I haven't had any cases pop up that, like, for me as a lifestyle coach, like, that I need assistance with, which is, like, the amazing feeling for me, and then sometimes other coaching friends will send me labs and, I'll give them my perspective, and I know just, like, couple years ago, I used to get a set of labs and I would have a panic attack. Like, cause I'd be like, now I have to evaluate these. I have to figure everything out. I don't know what this is before even seeing it. Like, I would just be like, I see the WhatsApp notification that they sent me the PDF and
And you're like, fuck.
I'd be like having a meltdown. I'd be like, "Oh my god, I need to deal with this." And then like now I get them and I'm just like, "I got this, like no problem." And that is such a good feeling like you were saying, Ash, but like it takes a while to get there, but just having that confidence in yourself is huge.
uh-huh,
Mhm.
uh-huh.
Absolutely. And part of that confidence is knowing the fact that you don't know everything and that it is okay to ask for help and direction when you don't have it. And, this is something where it's like one of my best friends, Ash Spokes, right? Whenever she has a question about clients' labs, I ask her to please share. Not because I want to solely help her, like of course I do. She's one of my best friends, but I also want to get better too. Because when you know something when you're able to teach it. When you're able to help explain to another person in a complex way, but also in a non-complex way, that way they understand. And it's one of those things where we are on separate teams, but we collaborate. We collaborate as females. We bounce ideas off of one another. We see how we can help that person, that client. It's not about rivalry or jealousy or any bull crap because we don't have space for that. We align, which is why when you do collaborate with other female coaches or even other coaches in this space, making sure you truly get to know them before you start collaborating on things because their reputation will impact your reputation, which is why, again, you want to make
Woo.
sure you're working with real people so that way you stay aligned and you don't lose yourself to maybe a different way of thinking that doesn't truly align with you. Perspective is powerful, but when that perspective isn't in alignment, that is too detrimental.
Yeah, when you're not looking for external validation, your blinders for like what is bullshit, they're much thicker. Um, if that makes sense. So like you're able to discern a lot better because you're not chasing a dumb person's approval and you're actually going to believe when their methods or their way of thinking or what they do to people is not in alignment with who you are and what you want to work with. And so you're more likely to say, no, I'm going to go take a different route if you're not chasing external validation. And so, and I've been there, like, and your level of discernment of what is like what should be around you and how it's energizing you, it changes when you're thinking internally like that. So it's important because like this is a small community. It seems online, especially since like we're coaches and we follow a lot of coaches, it seems like there's a lot, but that's really just because that's always in our face, right? And people talk. I mean, I'm sitting here saying don't care what people think, but do right by people. Because you're going to be more marketable to be somebody that people want to network with. I'm still working on it myself, which is why it's hard for me to know how to show up on social media, and how to continue to be myself, right? Because I understand that not only am I marketing to my like future clients and making sure that my own athletes are educated, but I'm also marketing myself as an individual that wants to work with others in the future in other in other coaching spaces and pockets, because there's different pockets for different people. And while you don't want to be liked by everyone, because there would be a problem with that, you do want to at the very least have a value system where you're not hurting others. And like that's the main thing. You just don't hurt others in this industry. And people are able to decide with their freedom whether or not they want to work with you because you're showing up as real.
Yeah. Yeah, I've had, go both ways. I've had other coaches refer athletes to me that they knew, like, oh, this isn't really my wheelhouse. That's something Liz is probably good at. And that's both coaches that I know very closely. So, of course, they know what I'm good at, but also coaches that just know me from Instagram and they're just like, oh, I think Liz would be good at that. I mean, in the same way, I've had cases where I'm like, that's not really my niche or whatever. I think Ash would be great at that. Or, I think B would be great at that. Like, let me send them to a coach who does that thing. So I think, like you said, having those relationships with other coaches and being someone who's trustworthy is huge. Because when someone does, another coach is like, I think Liz would be better for this. I'm like, that's huge to me that you would think of me for that and pass it along to me.
Absolutely. No, that's so important. And kind of along with that, like confidence of knowing what you bring to the table, but then also having the faith of what others brings to the table, that's very, very valuable. And it's something where it's like putting yourself out there and taking a chance. Like I know I just competed and I'm an athlete, but it's like I'm also still a coach. I'm also showing my clients and other people that like you can have fun on show day and still work hard and love bodybuilding. 6 weeks ago, I would have not been confident in saying that, but I had so much freaking fun, and the girls backstage and even the guys backstage, they got to see Ash Markham in its entirety. What it also gave me the courage to do is expand upon that. I now reached out to the NPC Carolina promoter. I think that's how you say it. Again, still learning, but like I'm now going to expedite a show in my hometown in 6 weeks because I want to make sure that show day goes as smoothly as possible for those athletes that are competing on that day because my show day was such a fun experience, right? And that's where it's just like it's such a genuine joy and pleasure to still be Ash Markham, whether she's a bodybuilder, whether she's a friend, whether she's a coach, whether she's a wife, because like I am all of those things. But more importantly, I am not those things because I do those things. I am those things because that's who Ash Markham is.
Another point that's like within the topic of the external validation, but I think just like having confidence in your coaching because I know it kind of goes back to what you were saying. There's like trends and people might bring up like peptides or this and that, but people hire you because you're the expert and they trust you. And you do have the job of telling them things they don't want to hear. And sometimes you might get pushed back. Like they might really want to try this random thing. And you're like, I don't really think you should do that. I think you should focus on this. And it might feel like you're being questioned, but you have to be confident in what you're recommending. And if you're not confident in it, that's something that you should kind of like dig into a little bit more. But I know at the end of the day, like I've had someone question, like maybe I recommended certain supplements or, certain approaches to address lab work. And I always say, my job is to educate you. At the end of the day, it's your decision. This is the facts. This is like resources that you can look at yourself. And I provide them that information. If they don't want to follow it, that's fine. Just let me know what you're doing. But just have that confidence in what you're recommending of like, yes, I feel like this is the best thing for you.
Mhm. Absolutely. Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like you always wanna like, this is maybe more for, like, a client or something like that, but if someone's pushing really hard for something with a discount code, and I mean just, like, in your face, it's like you kinda have to question that. Like, I get we all gotta eat, and yes, we all have codes of certain brands that we align with, but I'm not pushing you to do this because, like, I want that kickback. I use this product or I have my athletes use it and I believe in it, right? Or I believe in that mission. So it's like a moral conviction versus like having a discount code for every single brand and just pushing it because you need that revenue. It's like that's not how I want to put food on the table. I want to put food on the table because you believe in me as a coach. Or if you can't afford my coaching services, then you at least trust me enough to use the brands that I believe in and support me that way. Because that's also how people support me. Because like let's not sit here and be like, oh, some people can drop, between $300 and $500 on a coaching service. Not everyone has that luxury, but damn, if they want to make sure that they get a quality, a multivitamin that's not like Nutricost, like Beast Post today, then they can use code BRIT, right, with 2 T's, or code MyoStrength at Morphogen. Liz, you got a Morphogen code?
Um, just use yours. I do, but I don't know the last time I benefited from that whatsoever, so I
But
probably shouldn't
regardless, right,
share it.
it's like, again,
I
those are
use my
different
Legion one.
opportunities.
My Legion one, I think, is Core by Liz. But I that is something, especially because I coach all lifestyle athletes, is I'm always talking to them about like budgeted supplements. So even though I
For
do
sure.
have a code for Legion for Morphogen, I'm always just like, what are we working with? And if it's like a case, like a health case where they have kind of a list of supplements, I'm just like, to me, I don't want it to be about you like using my code or whatever. It is just how can we get you what you need within your budget? And I'll be honest with my own coach, like he had a list of supplements for me and it added up to like $500 and I responded to him and I was like, "Hey, I'm not spending $500 a month. Like, can we talk about some other options for this?" And we worked through it. He removed some. He's like, "Hey, we can use this one instead to target this." And he recommended some swaps and we worked it out, you know. But I'm like, you can go back and forth with people on that. I think it's really important that you're, again, confident. Like, I could have just been like, well, he said I had to take these. So there goes my bank account, you know. But I'm like, no, I'm confident. I also am confident in my own lab work and being like, do I really need that one? So, I think just being able to work with someone on those aspects too. And I would say just this isn't really about external validation, but in terms of like the codes and stuff like that, I think that's a good topic of like, it's better to work within your client's budget and get them what they need. And that might be like an alternative that's still a good quality product, but maybe not as expensive because some of those brands like charge up the ass when it's really not necessary, you know?
I think sometimes too, like with when you're collaborating with brands and like we'll just use supplement brands as an example, even clothing brands, stuff like that. A lot of times people will use that as a means of, hey, I'm working with this company, so
Mhm,
work with me. And it's like a form of trust that they're trying to like show that they have some sort of popularity or collaboration with a bigger company that makes a lot of money or has a lot of followers or works with big players in the industry, whatever. That is not a good marker of who you actually want to work with in coaching.
mhm,
So it's an important marker to understand a person's values, in my opinion. So, for example, Liz is like, I work with Legion, I work with like lifestyle athletes, so their needs are different. I work with Morphogen Nutrition. I really like brands like Revive, like very bodybuilding focused type brands,
mhm,
Right.
right? So it's going that those are the types of things I want my desired clientele to be working with,
mhm,
right? But what's going to show that I'm a good coach to work with are going to be my athlete's level of satisfaction,
mhm,
my how I'm showing what my processes are, you know, online, social media, whatever. If I'm a good person, that's the type of stuff you want to look at, not labels on social media like discount codes, IFBB Pro, then, you know, whoever's name, just because somebody's a pro and has that doesn't mean that they're a good coach. There's so many other things to look at. And when coaches are actually showing up as coaches, you're going to see way more of their clients' stories. You're going to see way more of their clients' results. You're going to see them educate more on their page, more than they're talking about themselves, more than they're talking about like how how they're representing something else. And so it's something that can really be difficult for people to discern, especially when they're chasing community. They are chasing um, being seen and being heard. But being coached is like, well, is not the same thing as being seen and heard. It's being led. So it's just different. And so you'll know whether or not you are actually chasing the right things based on what you're attracted to when it comes to online presence and accounts that you're looking at or maybe really gravitated toward. Because you might
Mhm.
like someone and their content and what they represent, but it doesn't mean that they're a good coach. It doesn't mean they know how to actually do that.
Absolutely. And to kind of conclude here off of, a great final statement from B is like your leadership can't be outsourced. It cannot be, an amalgamation of external validation. When you stop outsourcing your worth, your influence becomes untouchable. And that is really important as a female to understand that you have your power and your voice that needs to be heard. And I think from like just a personal experience, how I know I'm confident is I end my statement, period. I don't end it with a question, an inflection in the voice, because no, I know what the fuck I'm talking about. And if I don't, then I make sure it's phrased as a question, but I'm not questioning myself. And there's a big difference in how you show up.
Yeah, mic drop.
Any kind of final closing thoughts, ladies?
Nope, that's
I
it.
don't think so.
I love it. All right, guys, until next time, we'll catch ya.
Peace.
Peace.